6 months. 6 months since COVID-19 came along and turned our world inside out. Now, honestly, the virus doesn't scare me nearly as much as the idiots running the show. You have politicians using the virus as a reason to divide instead of unite. Mainstream media spreads misinformation with their own controlling agendas in mind. Pharmaceuticals using COVID treatment and vaccine press releases to drive up their stock prices while salivating at the prospects of selling us $3,000 COVID treatments. Treatments, not cures. I could go on and on here, but I think you get the point. Where does that leave us? That's the question. Where does that leave us? It leaves us with a choice to wake up and realize that we've been conditioned to treat symptoms with pharmaceutical drugs before looking at natural remedies and trying to fix the root cause of a problem. I think we've all been programmed to eat poorly by companies pushing products filled with sugar, preservatives, and other forms of toxins. How much is your life worth? Not a whole lot based on the actions of pharmaceuticals, junk food companies, and politicians. The COVID-19 pandemic is arguably humanity's biggest test. You remember this?
Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, very interesting for sure. Well, it turns out Trump may have been on to something here, but he was just clueless. It is time we sanitize the inside of our bodies, but not by drinking bleach. By reducing the toxins we take in. Let's build our immune systems so we have the strength needed to fight illness of all kinds. On today's show, we'll talk about making the necessary adjustments to naturally build our immune system. And to guide us on this quest, we invited Dr. Erik Lerner from Lerner Family Chiropractic in Orlando, Florida. I hope you enjoy the show as much as we enjoy bringing it to you. I'm your host, Garth Case, alongside my partner in all things green, Andre Brown. And this is The Real Green Show. Andre, what's going on, brother?
Hey, man, it's good to be here. New format. Crazy week, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I know. You're in Florida, man, and things are not looking the best in terms of the coronavirus statistics. But again, you got to remain optimistic here, right? That we'll get through this and get things back to some level of normalcy, right?
Well, that's what I'm hoping. Well, the thing is that my routine hasn't changed. As you know, I'm a proponent of good health and eating right, exercise, sleeping, everything that we promote. So I actually feel great. I'm concerned a little bit about what's going on in the country. I think, we need to get a good message out there. I am concerned about Florida though, because it's just going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. But I'm still, we're breaking records, but I'm very optimistic, especially because of the guest that we have today.
Absolutely, no question. So as everyone heard in the intro, we're going to be talking about building your immune system today. And we decided to have an expert with us to talk to us and talk with us about building your immune system. There's never been a more important time to think about this, quite honestly. And so I think this message is timely. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Erik Lerner to our show.
Yay!
Erik, how are you?
Guys, good to be here. And by the way, I'm a coronavirus optimist, so hopefully shed some a little bit of peace on this.
Okay, well, good. That's exactly what we need, and that's exactly why we have you here. Good to see you, Doc.
You as well.
And
Absolutely.
I'm glad you're not wearing any Ohio State colors, by the way.
I wouldn't do that to you.
All right,
a little bit of a rivalry going on, I see. All right. So let me get into a little bit of your background, Dr. Erik, and you're okay if we call you Dr. Erik, right?
No
Good?
doubt.
All right. So in terms of, your background, you're a chiropractor by trade. And, I looked at your bio and I was really impressed by the fact that you went to the 2012 Olympics, part of the wrestling team. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I'm just curious.
Yeah. That was the most fun part of my career. I don't know how this will come over on the podcast. I got a picture here of me with Jordan Burroughs right after he got his gold medal.
Yeah.
So
that was cool.
So we got pretty cool to experience an event like that a little bit on the inside. We got to work with the wrestlers. We also worked with the judo team and weightlifting teams leading up to the games. So you just got to see these guys and gals' dreams come true just to make the team, and then meet them up in London there and see them actually, bring home the gold was fantastic. We had one of our female judo athletes, Kayla Harrison, was the first ever gold medalist for the United States in judo, and she was one of our big patients or people we worked with the whole way. So that was just really cool.
Wow. Yeah, that is very cool. I mean, again, just being able to go to, I've never been to an Olympics. It's on my bucket list. Hopefully at some point I'll be able to do it, maybe in retirement or something. But the reality is it's got to be very cool being behind the scenes. I was in sports for many years, so I know how cool it is to be behind the scenes of a professional league, but the Olympics on another level. So it must have been very, very incredible to do that. And obviously your man got the gold. So, kudos to you and whatever you were doing to help him. We can help everybody else on this podcast.
Yeah, we also, you got on the inside, we were only busy working with those guys, a few hours a day. So we were able to see a lot of the Olympics too. So I was there for the women's gymnastics team winning gold medal also. Simone Biles was just too young to be on the team. We almost caught her, but Allie Raceman, Michaela Harris, Gabby Douglas, Michaela Maroney, got to see all of them. So it was just really great.
So, I'm curious, like, what led you to this? You're an athlete in school, or what was your beginning here of ending up there? Or maybe just tell us a little bit of a backstory.
Yeah, I was a wrestler growing up, so that was my sport. And my older brother Ben, Dr. Ben Lerner, he's also a chiropractor. He worked with USA Wrestling from 1990 until probably about 2016. So he was the first ever official chiropractor for USA Wrestling. They had never had one before him, and he traveled over the world. And I just, so I'm hearing his stories. I'm watching him. I caught him on TV when he was in Australia, and so I was jealous for a good dozen years before he finally let me on board. So that was the background behind the Olympic stuff. As far as like chiropractic and being a chiropractor, and this kind of thing fits in with what we're going to talk about today. I was a super sick kid. I was allergic to everything. I had asthma. I'd go to bed with croup every night. If anybody was sick in our county, I'd get sick. So constantly had colds and flus. I was the classic snotty nosed kid. Anything that had to do with boogers, I had it. And my parents tried everything. Every pediatrician. I was going to allergy specialists. Everybody. And actually, nothing was working, tons of medications. And when I was about probably a sophomore or junior in high school, my brother Ben he had been helped by a chiropractor. He talked me into going. So, here I am, all these illnesses, and he's telling me to go to a chiropractor, and I didn't quite understand the connection. But when I went to this chiropractor, he taught me two things I think fit in exactly with what we want to talk about tonight. But the first thing he talked to me about is he said, Erik, when you talk to me about what you think your problems are, you told me that one of your problems is allergies. You said one of your problems is asthma. One of your problems is that you get sick all the time, colds and flus. He said, none of those things are the problem. They're all symptoms of your problem. And so, to me, I always thought, no, my problem is I have allergies. He said, no. You have allergies as a result of a problem. So that was the first time anybody ever kind of challenged me there. And then the second thing he said is that he said, listen, all of these treatments you're doing are working on, again, these symptoms, these results of your problem. No one's ever really helped you look for the cause. He said, if we can determine why you get sick all the time, and really the sickness, the allergies, all that was really a weak immune system. That's what I had. I had a compromised immune system my entire life. And so I was prone to all of these illnesses. So he said, if we can find the cause of the compromised immune system and start addressing that and help you get over that, then you'll see, then you can get well. And obviously, long story short is I started working with him and really quickly saw the asthma go away, a little more time, and saw the allergies, get better a little, bit by bit. And then I think when it came to like all the sicknesses, one day I just kind of looked back and said, wow, I haven't been sick in a year or two. And that was kind of what spurred me on to even becoming a chiropractor and wanting to do this for a profession.
Wow, that is something. When you said that just now about really looking at the root cause of something, that is eerily kind of reminiscent for me. I mean, I used to be in the tech world when I was in sports, and as a person that would troubleshoot problems or have to fix problems, technology breaks all the time, and so one of the things that people, even who I worked with, would overlook was really the root cause of a problem. They'd put a Band-Aid on the issue, but never really solve the root cause. So, if it was a game we were putting on, for instance, in one city, we put the Band-Aid on the problem, but in the next city, the problem reoccurred again because we never looked at the root cause. And so that's exactly kind of the thing that I love about, your approach. It's really going at the heart of the problem and maybe finding ways in which we can, solve that as opposed to putting a Band-Aid on it,
In fact, if I could jump in here real quick.
Yeah.
What I find fascinating about that story too is how it took a while for it to kind of click that you were now okay. That it wasn't a magic pill. It wasn't a fix overnight. It was slowly rebuilding your entire immune system so that you were a healthy kid again, and I find that fascinating. So the first thing I would like to ask you, Dr. Erik, is how exactly do you build a strong immune system, especially using chiropractic help?
But even before we go there, Andre, I'm just curious about something. If you could just take a moment to explain to us what a chiropractor does, and especially as it relates to your practice, because anyone could Google it, obviously, but I'd like to hear people, have people hear it from you specifically about what a chiropractor does, and ultimately how you approach it in your practice in Florida.
Yeah, I'd love that, because I think there's a ton of misconceptions out there. Chiropractic, if you look at any anatomy book, like so the anatomy book that any doctor you've ever been to in your entire life used when they were in either medical school or chiropractic school or dental school, wherever they went, is a book called Gray's Anatomy. So Gray's Anatomy isn't just a show on TV. It's actually the book that all the doctors study from. That's how they get the name. So if you look at Gray's Anatomy, in the first, I think it's on page 1 or in the first chapter, it starts right off by talking about the nervous system and how the nervous system controls the physiology or function of every other system in the body. So nothing happens in our body without the central nervous system telling it to happen, right? The brain and spinal cord is your central nervous system. If you then study physiology, and again, the book that all of your doctors studied from is a book called Guyton's Physiology. But if you look in a book on physiology, which is a study of how the body works, it spends a large amount of the book talking about the central nervous system and its control of every other system in the body, and the need for that nervous system to be working, for the body to be working properly. So now when we get to chiropractic, with chiropractic, we look at someone's spine. We don't look at their spine because we're trying to, cure back pain or cure anything else for that matter. We look at the spine because the spine houses and protects the spinal cord, which is part of the central nervous system. The brain is encased in skull. There's not a lot you can do to interfere with that. But when it comes to the spinal cord, if any of the individual bones in your spine shift out of position, that bone will actually put pressure on the spinal cord. It'll put pressure on nerves coming off the spinal cord. And when you put pressure on a nerve, when you start, that actually interferes with that nerve impulse. So the brain is trying to send a nerve impulse to your heart, telling it to beat, and a bone in your neck is putting pressure on the spinal cord. That message is affected, and it affects the physiology of your heart or any other organ those nerves are running to. And so when I got over allergies and asthma and built a stronger immune system through chiropractic, it wasn't that my chiropractor was treating allergies, asthma, or weak immune systems. The chiropractor found areas within my spinal column where bones were sitting on nerves, were putting pressure on the spinal cord, and so my body was not able to function properly. He took that pressure off, restored better function, and my body did the healing. The chiropractor heals nothing. We remove the interference, and I like to say, I'm a believer, I like to say God does the healing, but just getting the body back to normal in the first place, and again, primarily by addressing the central nervous system. That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely does, without question. That is interesting. When I listen to that, I think back and I think to myself, how is it possible that so many people didn't share that with others? When you go to a typical doctor, an MD, that is never usually the conversation. The conversation is generally very quickly rooted toward some kind of medicine that they're going to put you on, and instead of kind of looking at other solutions. And I'm always fascinated when I hear people like yourself talk about alternate ways of looking at treatments, looking at what the root cause is, trying to treat a problem before putting someone on some medicine that they'll never get off for the rest of their lives, right? So that's fascinating. Thank you for that. I needed to understand it. I'm hoping our audience gets that too, because it is a very, very important distinction in what you do, right? As compared to other doctors.
Yeah, something I want to say
Andre,
too,
sorry, I interrupted you before. Go ahead.
No, in response to something Andre said earlier, when I first stopped just taking drugs and started working on me to get better, the first thing I felt worse, right? Not better, right? The drugs were numbing the symptoms. You get off the drugs and you're not going to feel better right away. You're going to feel worse, but by getting off the drugs, you're going to actually, because drugs are toxic, you're going to help your body start to get stronger, and it's over time, it's part of the answer.
Right.
In fact, I'd like to add to that too. What happens is, as a result of the pharmaceuticals, is that because it's spot treatment, because of it's Band-Aid fix, what happens is that the body compensates. So if you have all these different ailments, you have several levels of compensations taking place in your body. And this was something that I experienced once I started receiving chiropractic health, because I actually felt worse for about 4 to 6 months before I started feeling better. And it wasn't until I got into the business and got into the whole realm of health and wellness that I, in doing the studying and understanding the science behind it, that I began to understand why it worked. And in fact, so many people over the years that I have brought to chiropractic medicine, they've always complained that they feel worse before they feel better. And the thing that I've come to truly realize and understand is that if you've been taking pharmaceuticals for a number of years, there's a bunch of counterbalance that has been taking place in your body. So whereas, if you have been on 3 or 4 different drugs, you may be, several dozen different counterbalances that have been taking place in your body. So once you come off of that, of course, the body has been used to you taking those drugs. That's the first thing. But because you've been so out of balance for such a long time, you have a tendency to feel bad before you feel better. Also, the other side of that too is that because you've been taking the drugs, you actually really forget what feeling good really is. until you go through a sequence of chiropractic health and chiropractic care?
Man, it sounds to me like you just described addiction, right? In a way, right? You know, if you take heroin or something like that and you try to come off it, it's damn near impossible, right? Because it's, you know, an addictive substance. And here it is, you're describing regular pharmaceutical medicines as something that's difficult to get off of, right? It's, you know, the parallel there for me is not a good one, right? So, but I interrupted you before, Andre, when you're going to ask your question. So please go ahead and ask the question of Dr.
Actually,
Erik.
no, your interruption was good because it laid the great foundation. And I didn't know that story about Dr. Erik anyway. But back to what I want to know, Dr. Erik, what, through your practice, through chiropractic health, how do you build a strong immune system?
You know, I think when we looked at things in the office, right, people will come in and they'll have their different issues, right? So they'll have their different symptoms, their different health problems, and a lot of it could come back to an immune system that's weak, like mine was, or it could be something else. And people are frustrated because they can't find help. They don't know what they should do. Well, we try to focus them in on a few specific areas that are things they can do something about. So first and foremost, in this office, in my chiropractic office, is we're going to look at their spine to see if there's anything damaging the nervous system, right? So let's remove any interference to the nervous system so that the power is getting from the brain out to the organ. Andre, you know that when we adjust somebody when we're done, we say your power's on, right? So first work with that. Next thing is we'll look at their nutrition. You know, we want to make sure they're putting the right foods in. For a lot of people, nutritionally, it's making sure they're not putting the wrong foods in. So try to make some changes there to try to help them out. Try to make sure they're doing some sort of movement, some sort of exercise, right? When you are exercising, you start breathing heavier, you're pumping more oxygen to the cells, and that is totally needed for health. We're going to work with them on toxicity and detoxing. You know, all the medications they've taken over the course of their lifetime, the foods with preservatives and colorings, the stuff that we use on our shampoos, our soaps, our perfumes, the things to fragrances in the house, those things all are toxic to the body. So we're going to work with them on A, making better choices, but B, most people need to do some sort of detox work as well. And then lastly, just kind of, and this is probably the toughest one, when it comes to nervous system, it's an x-ray, look at the spine. You know, nutrition, talk about what they're eating, what they shouldn't eat. Obviously, the toxicity side and exercise, that's simple enough. The last one's mindset, and just a mentor of mine once told me there's no such thing as an uncurable condition, but there is such thing as an uncurable person. You know, if someone's mindset is that they can't get well and they're just down about it or anything like that, it really is tough. So again, that's tough sometimes, but that's one other area we'll look at. So we really look at those 5 areas and focus in on, hey, if we can get those things doing better, as close to right or perfect as possible, which probably is not possible for most people, but get them better, that makes a person a healthier person. If you're a healthier person, you have a healthier, stronger body, you have a better chance to heal from everything from back pain to cancer, right? So we're not treating any of the diseases, any of the symptoms, get the body healthier and let that body do its thing.
So basically you're saying it's not a one-up fix, it's basically a wellness lifestyle, that all of these points need to be addressed for everything to come together, for the body to do what it needs to do to heal itself.
Yeah, and I've had people say, like, if I wasn't going to do all of those, which one should I do? And I'm like, unfortunately, health doesn't work that way, right? Another person once told me cancer doesn't care, right? No, it might be inconvenient or whatever, but cancer doesn't care. You got to take care of your body. You can't just pick one. There's 5 areas. And I know from talking to you gentlemen, you guys have something very similar that you've taught as well to help get that back in line.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, and maybe even a perfect segue to a certain degree. One of the things that I wanted to, show today or talk about was the endocannabinoid system. Now, I am less of an expert than Andre is on this, but one of the things that I came to realize, which was also surprising, you may hear me a little bit being, very pessimistic about our medical doctor system. I think a lot of it is people are just, they're not willing to open their minds to new things and new ways of looking at things and broader ways of looking at things. And this system is one of those things. It was surprising to me that it took such a long time for it to be recognized as a system within the body, because it was not taught in medical school, right? To many doctors, and now everyone is acknowledging its existence. So again, it goes back to the point that we don't know everything about our bodies. If we did, we probably would have cured this COVID thing a while ago. The reality is there's a lot we don't know. And so keeping a broad and open mind is important. So let me share my screen really quickly here so everyone can see what we're about to talk about. Because I think it's one of those things that's really, really important for people to understand. All right. So hopefully everyone can see that on their screens. How about you guys? You guys seeing that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, I started talking about endocannabinoids. So I'm going to let Andre talk more about it. But this is one of those things that was shocking to me, right? That this system existed, and here it is. It's designed to help, build balance in your body, and yet, we weren't really versed on it, and it's surprising to me. A lot of people still are not aware, and so part of what our effort is obviously is to bring awareness to this as much as humanly possible, so people are aware of this and can talk to their doctors about this kind of stuff and demonstrate the fact that they're educated, right? To be quite honest with you, is this something, by the way, Dr. Lerner, that you have experienced in your practice, or is it also new for you?
Yeah, I would say in the healthcare world and from the chiropractic side and just going to seminars over the years, a few years back, you just started hearing everybody talking about CBD. So everybody started raving about it. And at first, like you said, we didn't learn it in school, right? Yeah. So it doesn't make it wrong. We just didn't learn it in school. And so you're hearing like a little murmur at first from people, and then starts growing into a louder roar about, hey, does anybody have experience with this? This is what I keep seeing and hearing. And then really by the time, I've known Andre for years, I remember your first communication with me about it, that you were doing some more study into it. And by that time I was like, Andre, I run into this everywhere, help me. And so he really kicked off my education on it. I've done some other stuff myself since then. But Andre was my guru.
Well,
excellent.
I kind of like that, Doc. I think that's the first time that you've given me credit for anything. That's a joke, by the way. Anyway, to jump straight into it, the endocannabinoid system actually is a part of the entire central nervous system. It actually provides the fuel. How it really was discovered was the use of cannabis has been taking place, cannabis and hemp, for over 100 years. They knew that there were certain effects that it had, but it wasn't until they started doing the research that they really realized, wait a second, this is directly connected to the central nervous system, which affects the immune system, which affects everything. So actually, it's a very important part, and this is where CBD is important, and this is one of the things that JamRock, on our educational platform that we are pushing, because people just really don't know and understand how important it is, and more specifically with chiropractors, we actually really complement what you do in terms of you do the physical side, we provide the fuel. The endocannabinoids. The cannabinoids in hemp and in cannabis, you have two major receptors, CB1 and CB2. These receptors are found in the brain and along the central nervous system. And once the body is out of homeostasis or balance, when they come to you and you start the process by the realignment, the body, just like a car, it needs the fuel. CBD is actually produced by the body itself. In fact, we can find CBD in several other foods like black pepper or like avocado and stuff. It just so happens that the hemp and the cannabis plant produces the most amount of CBD of any plant that is out there. So this is why this one is particularly important. So what it does is that where there are problems in the body, it connects through the central nervous system and provides the fuel. The CBD is the fuel that the body uses to repair itself, to repair the cells, to repair the muscles, to repair the normal functions of the bodies. So where it works well with chiropractic practice is that while you do the realignment, it and allows the body, it clears the channel for the body to do what it does. The CBD provides the fuel so that it can do this.
Yeah, I guess.
Physiology 101. The nervous system. The nervous system is controlling things. If you have a healthier nervous system, you have something that's fueling the nervous system, you're gonna have a healthier, stronger body.
Yeah, that's exactly the point I was gonna make. Obviously CBD comes in many forms, and this is not a CBD commercial, right? So this is about education, quite honestly. But people should be curious about this, and recognize that even if it comes to rubbing it on your body, rubbing it on in the areas that hurt, things like that, any absorption at all of CBD can help. But like anything else, it is not a silver bullet. It does go with this a system, a regimen, a lifestyle change. Without those things, it is ineffective, right? And it's kind of going back to what you said. There are many items that go into how you can build a strong immune system, build a strong body. And so we want to talk a little bit about some of those too. You mentioned some in your practice, and I wanted to drive that point home because we are focused on a very similar thing with how we educate people about use of CBD and integrating it into a lifestyle change, making sure that they can truly gain full balance. But it does start with some level of commitment. So I'll actually move into the next slide here. Hopefully that shows up and you guys can see that.
Yes.
All right. So, I'll take it from the top here a little bit and we can discuss it more if needed. But essentially, the way we look at it at JamRock is very similar to what you said. You had 5, we have 4 things here, but you could literally wrap all the things you said into the stuff we have here. And it does break down into, this idea of healthy living. Much of what you talked about, boils down to that. And for us, we want to make sure that people kind of get what we mean by healthy living, right? Healthy living is not just about eating right alone, right? That's one thing, but being cognizant of what you're eating, what you're putting into your body. That's something that I came to realize. I mean, for me, I felt a little too late. I wish someone had, grabbed me by the hand and held me earlier, and walked me the hell out of McDonald's. But here it is. I've spent lots of years destroying my body. And now I'm trying to rebuild it, obviously. So, but in terms of all the toxins and things like that can go into your body from food, you should be aware of some of these things. We want to make sure that people have a better idea. So, healthy living, and again, the slides here, we want people to just kind of absorb what's here and take a look at it themselves and reach out to us if they have questions. I mean, this is not, again, a commercial for our system or CBD. This is really about you being educated on the fact that there's an alternate way of thinking about your health, right? Especially now that we are, going through this challenge, right? With people who have compromised immune systems, much of which sometimes is related to pharmaceutical medicines, right? I mean, in a prior episode of our show, we interviewed another doctor, and he was very, very clear with us on the fact that, many pharmaceuticals, most of them, they have to turn off aspects of your immune system so it doesn't stop the medicine from working. Now, just the thought of that alone to me scares me, right? That someone is going in and turning off a portion of something that's meant to work to help me stay alive. that just feels too godlike in a way that someone's changing that, and obviously there's impacts, and that's where these side effects come from and so on. So, Andre likes to tell me to get off my soapbox. So I'm going to pause for a second, and maybe Andre, you can take us through some of this and talk about it too.
Yes. One of the things that I'd like to take a quick jab at you at, by the way, is that, and in general, Dr. Erik, we in bringing people into a better lifestyle, we want to ask them to make adjustments, not to make change. When people hear change, immediately they stack the walls up and things become difficult. When realistically, if you change one thing, or if you make a small adjustment, if one thing in the equation is adjusted, the entire equation is adjusted. So what we're trying to do through our system, and definitely through yours, and what I see you do over the years through your practice, is really point to areas that we need everyone to make small adjustments to. Okay, don't cut out the sugar, completely because you're addicted to it, or because you think you like it. But guess what? Instead of drinking 2 glasses of soda, drink 1 and drink a glass of water. That's an easy increment that everyone can make. The other thing is too, a point that I'd like to make before we go specifically into each area, is that when you address the whole mindset, what your mentor said to you about mindset, this is a big part of what's wrong today, is that everything that we have been taught, everything which has consequently conditioned us to think a specific way. We are a pill society. We are an instant gratification society. And realistically, as we're seeing with the virus, the virus is not just a Florida thing or a New York thing or a United States thing. It's a global thing. And that's what wellness is. It's not just one thing. It's not just one area. It's pieces of the entire puzzle. So this is one of the things that the diagram that we have up in front, and what you've always, done. And a lot of it I've learned from you, Dr. Erik. So let's just kind of jump into healthy living. Eating healthy, fats, olive oils, drink fermented milk, use probiotics, supplements. Give us a little explanation of that.
I just think to your point you said earlier in terms of making simple changes, the first thing that we've always done, we try to add healthier things before we start subtracting. Mm-hmm. So in your first section here, most people have been taught that fat is bad for you and fat makes you fat, but actually it's not true. Fat is probably the most deficient nutrient in the American diet. So it's healthy fats that we need. So I just try to get people to increase the amount of healthy fats they're eating to start when they're on a nutrition plan. So something like olive oil is a fantastic, very healthy fat for the body.
I agree, 100%. Yep, go ahead, sorry.
And in fact, with olive oils, just to sort of also introduce the use of CBD, olive oils are actually one of the most effective ways of taking CBDs, in that because of the fat, you absorb up to 95% of the CBD into the body itself, as opposed to without that fat. So there goes another function of what fat does and why fat is essential in our diet. So,
yeah, personally, I do something similar. Sorry to interrupt you here, Andre, but I do something similar with my regimen, right? I'm not a big fan of the taste of CBD generally, even though it's flavored. So I like to include it. I include it with my olive oil on my salad dressing and even lots of things that I eat. I have it combined, right? And it is outstanding, right, to be able to ingest and absorb that way. Many people don't talk about that, and many people are not even aware, quite honestly, but we are, because we've been around this product pretty much from birth, being that we're from Jamaica. But at the end of the day, there's been things that we've known and we're sharing more and more with people now, that if you're going to take CBD, you don't have to, put it under your tongue like people tell you. It's about really making sure it's part of your diet, right? Part of this lifestyle that we're talking about. So go ahead, Andre. Balanced lifestyle is next.
Yes, we're jumping into balanced lifestyle. Get enough sleep, moderate exercise. In fact, I'm a big proponent of the sleep. The sleep is the most important cycle, because that's when the body repairs itself. And one of the things that I've come to realize over the years, and especially with my own experiences, I've had a number of health problems in a 10-year period. And coming out on the other side of it now, I truly realized that it was the sleep deficiency that was a big part of it. And so what do you think about that, Dr. E?
Yeah, I mean, I think both the sleep and the exercise, both sides of the coin there, those things tie really closely in with people's, again, their moods, the mindset part of this whole thing. So if you get someone who's not getting sleep, their body's not getting the right amount of time to heal, because we do 98% of our healing when we're sleeping, and it also affects their mindset throughout their day, which can have a very negative impact on their health.
Yeah, that's so
also,
true.
As we have there the management of stress and anxiety, yoga and meditation. Again, that goes back to the mindset of resetting everything. Everything is not life or death in terms of you have people stressing over paying a bill, and that throws everything off inside the body. And it's for us to really kind of get people to understand that life is more important than that, and to be able to quiet the mind so that the body can do the healing.
Absolutely. I want to take a step back on the sleep, conversation, because, I have lots of people that tell me, yeah, of course I get sleep, 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever it is. And I'm one of those people too, to a certain degree. I used to sleep a lot less. But more importantly, what I found though, it's the quality of sleep, right? It's getting to sleep faster and staying asleep, sound sleep longer. That is the thing I found that made a difference for me. Because there were times when I'd say, okay, I'm going to catch up on sleep, and I sleep an entire morning away on a Saturday morning and say, I got it, I'm done, I've caught up, right? But that's not what it is, and it's really all about how it is you go about having a very deep and good sleep. It's quality, and so that is important to pay attention to when you think about sleep. Moving on. Andre.
I agree with you 100%. Let's talk about the body detox, Doc. Talk to me.
The detox, again, it's trying not to, first of all, keep what we call retoxing, where you keep using a lot of the wrong stuff, and so we've got to try to get better at avoiding toxins. But then, like you have in your thing here, the more foods, we call them foods by God, foods that are closer to the way they were created, right? You get more of those in your diet, that helps your body start to clean itself out. And so sometimes back to the adding foods before we take them away, I'll tell people, hey, you could eat whatever garbage you're eating right now, but I want you to add a food by God to your breakfast. I want you to add a food by God to your lunch and one to your dinner. And make sure you eat that first, because maybe it'll fill you up a little bit before you eat the junky stuff. But when you're looking at your foods you're eating, how close is that to the way it looked when it was created or grown? And the more of that you can get in your diet, the better off you'll be.
So, Doug, you really tell people that they're eating garbage, huh?
Well, the truth is most people are.
Well, one of the points that I'd like to express here too, where we're expressing the plant-based diet, the body is naturally, or is supposed to be alkaline or alkalinic. A plant-based diet pushes your body towards an alkaline pH, which is also part of the solution of keeping our immune system strong. So that's one of the points that I'd like to place there. Anything to follow up on that where alkalinity is concerned, Dr. E?
No, you're absolutely right. And the more plants you get, the more raw foods you get also, as opposed to cooking them all, the better off you'll be. And one other thing on your slide here under the body detox that I don't think a lot of people think about is that, again, when it comes to your medications, it's not that I don't believe there's ever not a need for medicine, right? There's times when people need a medication to stay
Absolutely.
alive. But at the same time, there's no such thing as a medicine that's not a chemical, right? They're all chemicals or drugs. if you took a couple Tylenol, your headache might go away. If you took a whole bottle, you go away, right? You die from that. So it's just that those things are toxic, and years of taking even something that someone might think is not that big of a deal, like a Tylenol, it just breaks the body down. So you got to look at the drugs you're taking and understand that they're not good for you. Again, for some of you, you need them to keep you alive right now, but they're not good for you.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing about it really is, and everyone who's ever listened to our show has heard me talk about my experiences just with blood pressure medicine and so on, and how terribly that went, and what led me to talking about, where we are right now. And it boils down to people being educated. It's funny because if you look at a commercial for a pharmaceutical, and you listen to the number of side effects that come from this drug or could come from this drug, most of them, including death, right? Most people kind of gloss over that somehow, right? And including me, I did too. Okay, whatever. But it's not whatever. You're literally having, poison into your body. Now, like you said, sometimes you do need it. You do need it to stay alive and so on. But your goal has to be from the very jump to not get on it, right? So that starts with what I wish someone had taught me or told me, paying attention to these 4 things, right? It's really, really critical, because maybe, I could have gone longer without needing blood pressure medicine or something. I don't know. But, at the end of the day, I do know that I made a series of wrong turns in my life when it was related to health. And I think it landed me in a point where I had hypertension, very, very bad hypertension. Now I'm doing a lot better, thank God. But at the end of the day, this is the reality of pharmaceutical drugs to me, and it's the thing that I think most people do not pay attention to, right next to the fact that they eat like crap. Andre, take us home.
90% or more of the health problems that people suffer with are lifestyle driven. Less than 10% are genetics. In fact, it's a lot less than 10%. And so if your lifestyle caused the problem, you can't drug your way out of the problem. You're going to need to fix that lifestyle issue to get out of it.
Makes sense to me.
That segues into our last point, the weight management. Number 1 point there, limit added sugar, or I would say limit sugar, period. What are your thoughts about that, Doc?
Oh yeah, sugar's the biggie. So it's limiting sugar, and it's not just like I have a lot of people say, well, I don't eat a lot of sugar, and when they say that, they mean they don't eat a lot of cookies or eat a lot of ice cream, but they don't realize that when you eat a piece of bread as soon as it enters your mouth is converted to sugar. Rice is sugar. Potatoes are sugar. Pasta is sugar. That's what they are to the body. So there's a lot of hidden sugars, things people don't know. That's where these staying educated and is important.
Yep. Also, reading labels. And another very important fact that I learned in doing research for our company and for this program is that back when, I forgot which president it was, back in the 30s or the 40s, and he had a heart attack. And, the FDA started doing all this research, and that's when the Heart Association was formed. And they had, said that fat was the problem. So at that point, that's when they started creating all of these fat-free foods. And once they took the fat out, the flavor was gone, and they substituted it with the sugar. And I went on an exercise going into supermarket and read everything, and there is so much sugar that's put into our products that we buy. All of the canned products have sugar in them, and it's something that I think we need to educate the public about, that you need to be aware of it, because even when you think you're being vigilant and not eating the sugar, as you said, I'm not eating the cookie, but you open a can of beans or anything processed, they've added sugar to it, and that's really the source of where we're introducing the sugar in our diet when we're not really aware of it. So we need to be reading the labels and see what's going on there.
All right. And, I don't want to scare people, right? Because the reality is here, it's difficult to eat completely naturally unless you go vegan. And even then, sometimes it's difficult. And people find that very difficult to adopt. I think, like we said, it starts with these adjustments. Even if they begin with micro adjustments, it could lead to larger adjustments over time if you have the mindset for it. But I think once you see the difference and how it improves the quality of life you have, the leap will not be that difficult, but it is all about just being mindful of what you're putting in your body, and recognizing that everything in moderation, don't overdo it, because it is difficult for people sometimes to make that switch once they've been conditioned to drinking a Coke every day, or some people, maybe even like our president has like a 6-pack a day, that kind of stuff is unreal, but then someone will say, how come he's living so long? I couldn't tell you, but at the end of the day, that might be genetic. I have no clue, but I know that it's terrible for you. You can't be putting all that into your system, especially if you are already predisposed to diabetes or something like that. You're just adding to the problem that you're going to have later in life, which is a very, very poor quality of life potentially. So listen, we need to wrap this up. We've been talking and we're holding, Dr. Erik from his dinner, I'm sure, and his family. And we really appreciate you taking the time here to join us on the program, talk a little bit about this. People need to be aware, and we're all about providing some education. So thank you so much for taking the time, Dr. Erik. This is awesome, and we hope to have you back.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate it. Can I make one last statement? I told everybody at the beginning I'm a COVID optimist.
Yes, please do.
So I just want to give a marching order. So here's what you guys work on it.
Talk to me.
Everything you're reading about, everything people seem to be focused on, is they're focused on vaccines, medications, social distancing, and masks, right? And everybody's fighting about it. So you have half the people saying wear your mask, the other half saying don't, and everybody has research to show why they're right. Let's stop fighting about all that stuff and really just think about what you heard on this podcast. Start working on creating a healthier body. We need to focus more on the immune system, on our body, on being healthier, because the healthy people are not dying from this problem. It's the sick people. Just do something. And like Garth has been saying, you have to be perfect. Make a step in the right direction. Get yourself healthier. And I promise you will survive the COVID-19.
Yeah, you're so right about that. It's something I tell my kids. This is the reality, that we're seeing. And it's probably just a byproduct of again, the unhealthy living, the way in which we have been living. And it's funny because my mom is, she's very, very scared of this stuff. Because she's on like 7 different medicines, and this is kind of what scared me too. Scared me straight, so to speak, right after the blood pressure incident, and looking at the number of pills she's on, I said, wait a second, this is not the life I want to lead, so people definitely should recognize how that can work against you in your immune system. And if you get something that's a immunotype virus like the COVID-19, man, you're going to have a tough time recovering. Not saying it's impossible, but you're going to have a tough time. And who the hell wants to be on a ventilator? Jesus. But that's the reality, right, of things. And so I'm glad you brought that up. It's very pertinent for the moment, and people have this obviously top of mind, particularly my man in Florida, right? So please, and I know both of you are in Florida actually, but Andre, I'm talking about you. Obviously you're taking the steps you need to, and more people need to do the same thing. And so if you take anything away from what we're talking about today, it's what Dr. Erik just said, right? Micro adjustments. Pay attention to what you're putting into your body. Try and focus on building your immune system. This is the key to a healthier life, and also beating this COVID thing, right? I mean, I firmly believe that. So thanks again, everyone. This is great. Join us again for our next show when we have it. We'll send something out on social media, but we'd love your feedback, right? So please feel free, drop us a note. We care at JamRockOrganics.com, or social media. We answer every comment. We answer every email. So I hope you found this interesting, and I hope you start making some adjustments now. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Doc, thanks for coming. Come back anytime.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
All right. Take care.
Bye. What's up, everybody? You've just listened to The Real Green Show, brought to you by JamRock Organics. If you enjoyed the show today, please support us by sharing the podcast or leaving us a review. To learn more about us, check us out at JamRockOrganics.com. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on our show, email us at wecare@jamrockorganics.com. Last but not least, please don't take any of the information you get on this show from the hosts or guests as medical, legal, or financial advice. Speak with the appropriate licensed professional. At times, we will share promotional information and provide commercial reviews of products. We will always disclose when we are paid or if any of our discussions are investment related. Thanks for listening to the show. Peace and love, my friends.